Now for the first session, we have supply chain for Napier grass, which is presented by Mr. Shashi Hegde of Icons. I would like Nursi to say a few words about Mr. Shashi.
All right, before we go to Shashi, let me give a very brief introduction to all the guys who are going to be present today. There are 15 speakers from around the country along the value chain. Firstly, I should thank each and every one of them. There are going to be people like Shashi and Tushar who are in the supply chain part of the CBG sector. There are people from large companies today like GPS. They started small as a startup 10 years back. They have grown and grown and grown. People from the research side we have from companies like GPS, people from EPC companies, experts from EPC companies who are already putting up CBG and Napier, Paddy straw and Napier grass CBG plants across the country. We have people who have been running CBG plants for quite some time from MSW, but they have been running it for 2 to 3 years successfully in places like Chennai. So we are going to have all these guys with us over the next 7 to 8 hours, and I thank all and each and every one of them. We already have about 95 participants. We have about 125 to 130 people who are registered with us outside of the experts. So in all, we are going to have about 150 people. I thank each and every one of them. What I will be doing is, along the way, I'll be giving a brief introduction to each of these guys so that it is not just the knowledge that they share that you take back with you. You are also able to take back something about each of these experts so that you can connect with them. Just to let you guys know, all these are being recorded. All the presentations, whatever they allow us, will be shared with you, and all their contact information will be provided to you. Whatever they allow us to give to you, all their contact information will be provided. So we are going to make this extremely easy for you. Please note on whatever you want, but we will ensure that we share with you as much as possible once this is over sometime early next week. My pleasure now to say hello to Shashi. Shashi, known him only for a brief time, even though I met his colleague from HighCon somewhere around a couple of months back in Delhi. And I'm glad Shashi could come over here at short notice. And I was speaking to Shashi yesterday very briefly, and I asked him, what does he want to present? And he showed me just 3 or 4 slides, and he said, that's all I want to present, Nursi, because I want to tell some of the work we had done, especially on Napier grass. That is the focus he is going to have. So I told him, please do that. I'll be very happy for people to know, especially some numbers, especially some real life data that you have. And that's what I request Shashi to go ahead with. My pleasure, Shashi, to have you. Thank you very much for being here. The stage is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. We can come down to the slide. So to start with, basically, why Napier? Why we have been talking about Napier is, ultimately, all of us need a stable, staple diet. Like the North Indians eat probably wheat, and we, the South Indians, eat rice. So similarly, every digester needs to have some staple diet which will cover the bank EMI. So whatever the waste we use, there should be something which is highly predictable and highly which can produce more of sugar to produce the gas. So this was an introductory slide. So we'll start with, and at Icons, you can go to next slide. So at Icons, when we started in 2019, and we took a complete 3.5 years to do the R&D. We were not into the market until 2022. Whole of our COVID time, we were in the R&D mode, and we worked with Indian Institute of Science and Agarkar Research Institute. So some questions will come, whether the Napier or energy crops would replace the food crop or create such troubles. And the second question is, how can we get so much of land for growing the Napier? Whether farmers will be ready. So these are the major two questions who are not very accustomed to the agriculture they ask. If you look all across India, in most of the states, the annual income is around 66 to 77,000 rupees, except for Punjab, Haryana, and some coastal Karnataka, where the commercial crop like betel nuts and those kind of stuff, or the oil seeds, except few zones, the rest all the farmers are actually looking for some predictable, good cash flow, monthly cash flow or quarterly cash flow kind of crop. So this is the reality. You can keep switching the slides. You can go to next, sir.
Can we go to the next slide?
Yes, please. So if you look at food versus energy competition, whether it will create, I have taken 3 data sources. This can be independently verified. So this is the size of India. We know that is the fixed size. There is no 3 data, and there is uncultivated fallow land, which I have shown in square kilometer basis, hectare basis, and acre basis. Then there is, even if you keep aside some 10% of that unused agricultural land, then we have so many number of acres. Anyways, Narasimhan sir is going to share the slide, so I will not read out the numbers and all. And Napier grass yield is on average 150 ton per year per acre. This can be taken as a national average. Certain places it can go up to 200, certain it will be 120. So it will vary, but 150 can be a mid figure. And as soon as we start putting liquid fertilizer from the biogas plant, the yield will start improving. Even the little substandard soil will start getting more and more organic carbon, and it will start becoming fertile. So from this, we can create X number of or X ton of CBG per year, and which is, we have a potential of 246% of the real requirement. So absolutely, there is no question of people replacing the energy crops, replacing the food. So that is the thing. So we can go to next slide. So here we are going to assess what are the economics of growing the Napier grass, so that the entrepreneur is not very much uncertain about the raw material. At least he needs some certainty. That's why I have used the word sleep with peace, because the sales side, there is some good level of stability is coming, but on the raw material side, we are ready to go. We can go to next slide. So on the statistics level, sir, next slide, please. On the statistic level, we see that millions of, let us say, tons of cow dung or things are available. But if you visually look at it, all this cow dung is probably scattered. Every 100 meter, there will be 200 grams of cow dung. So that is the thing. So I have taken the cultivation cost of the grass to dwell our numbers. I have taken a 225-acre of land, which is suitable for about 6 tons of gas output. Then I have taken the minimum of 120 average and maximum 180. So average is 150. So for when we do this, it will produce 16 of gas. Then there is a 20,000, which is the lease cost. Even though it is own land, we have to calculate the lease, or if it is somebody else's land, 20,000 rupees, the lands are available, especially a lot of empty lands. There is a urban migration. Because of that, there are farmers who are aged like 55, 60. Those people don't want to get into very hard kind of toiling in the agricultural land. So they are also looking for an easier crop. So at 20,000, lease land also is available, or even if we take our own land, we have to calculate some lease amount for that. 225-acre and all, in the agricultural terms, it is not a very big number. We, the urban dwellers, our mind has got piloted to the square feet basis of talking. So that is the reason 200-acre or 500-acre is not very big number. Within two, 3 villages, we are seeing that this can be gathered. Now, giving this 20,000 for 225-acre, every year it is coming to around 45 lakh. That is the lease amount. Then this land probably may not have any kind of irrigation. So we will have to do the borewell or the channel or whatever irrigation, piping, everything. So irrigation equipment cost will come 157. So that comes to around 70,000 rupees per acre is what I'm calculating. Not calculating, that is the reality. And there is initial sowing cost. We have seen that at least 7 to 8 years, this does not need any replantation. It is a grass. So grass can keep on growing. Like in the grasslands of the world, probably from millions of years, the same grass is coming. So grass do not have that what you call no single crop, double crop kind of system requirement. It will keep on coming. Then there are tractors, which is for the transportation of the grass. So total fixed cost to generate 225 acre of catchment land of Napier grass would come to 269. So I would say around 1,20,000 or 1,30,000 rupees per acre of Napier grassland. Once this is cultivated, 20 acre can be managed by one person, because there is no pesticide, there is nothing. It is only the watering the crop every morning or whatever the time. So 20 acre can be easily managed by one person. So we need 11 people, and the daily wage, most of the places like Rajasthan, it is lower. In Punjab, it's higher. So I have taken 400 rupees. Then there is a harvester fuel, which is 30 liter for this, because daily 6 ton means you will have to harvest probably 3 acres of land throughout the year. So 30 liter diesel will go every day. Then there is electricity for irrigation. And there is average transport distance 20. Yeah, it can be more also, but logistically it will become a challenge. So it is better to have 15 to 20 kilometer radius, all the farmlands. Then cost per trip for the tractor is 600 rupees. And when we take all these numbers, divide it by the yield, you get 133 rupees for the land and so on. And the standing crop, cost of the standing crop is 230 rupees, not more than that. Then we are adding the transportation, harvesting, and those things. So then it is coming to 233 rupees is coming from the land rent and those kind of things. The basic green crop is 230 rupees is the real cost. On this, of course, if you go for contract farming, you can add another 400 rupees or so as a profit. So this is the economics basically of the Napier. So annually, the raw material cost for 6-ton plant would come to around 254 means 2 crore 54 lakh rupees. So that is the number, which is the raw material cost for a 6-ton. So this is what. Then coming, since we are talking supply chain, it needs modified tractors with trolleys which can carry at least 5 ton. So we have to heighten the tractor trolleys to accommodate more of Napier grass. Bulk density is the challenge. Secondly, it has to be harvested and chopped to around 1 inch or something in the field itself, so that bulk density will get reduced and we will be able to transport. Secondly, for the harvester, it needs a specific Napier harvester, because what we have in the market is designed for maize actually. Maize is cultivated like single row and double row. Each blade has to take only 10 to 12 stems in each cut. Whereas in Napier grass, it is a very high density farming. So each blade will have to cut more than 22 stems per stroke. So it needs a very sturdy and very specifically built for Napier kind of harvester. So all these equipments, it took us about 3.5, 4 years to face just that kind of challenge and solve it. So today we are in the market with entire supply chain. We start from growing Napier grass till sales. Even if OMC is not able to sell, we have a capability to convert the diesel generators, tractors to dual fuel, and the boilers, furnaces to dual fuel or CBG based or CNG based kind of thing. So we could gather those capabilities only through investing in R&D. So we all are very critic of the success possibility of Napier or Paddy or whatever raw material. The reality is, we as a country, we do not have any dedicated R&D fund. And even if we dedicate some fund for the R&D in our balance sheets and financials, we cannot show it as R&D because it creates more of a trouble than the support. So the investment in R&D from the private companies are very less. So that's why you see that the technology slowly evolves. As the more and more R&D is at least some 5-10% of the money or the profit is kept aside by all of us entrepreneurs who are gaining from the market, is kept aside for the R&D, then the continuous improvement chain will start. That's what I want to say. Anyway, we have the question and answer session for further discussion. There is a last slide. So you can switch to last slide, sir.
Can we go to the next slide?
Yes, yes, please. So a lot of information, we have kept it even online. So I'm active in various kind of activities, the EPC, turnkey, or consulting. Probably out of our own enthusiasm, so far more than 3,500 people are trained in CBG with all the technical details. So with that, I want to take a leave and wait for the question and answer session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. That was a really intuitive presentation. I request the people in the meeting as participants, please, if you have any questions, please type it in the chat section. Now we will proceed with our second session, which is on supply chain for paddy straw, which is presented by Mr. Tushar Lowalekar of Biofuel Circle. I would like Nursi to first say a few words about Mr. Tushar.
Thank you, Tanuj. While we get Tushar's profile up in front, once again to repeat what Tanuj said, please type in your questions as and when you have it. We have a person compiling all of those. We have at the end of this session we have an excellent moderator in Som Narayan who will be familiar to most of you. He will be joining us and ask, I'm sure, very interesting questions after Tushar has finished. I have a few questions as well, which I have sent to Som, so leaving it to him. So it was good. Firstly, thank you very much, Shashi. It was a nice presentation. You kept it. In fact, I requested people to keep it to less than 17 minutes. You just kept it to less than 15 minutes, which is very good. I think you can take questions. there is no end to presentations, right? We can keep on presenting forever, but I'm glad he just stuck to one slide, which is probably the slide most of you want to talk about. How much does it cost to produce, cultivate Napier grass? I'm glad he spent a lot of time on that. As I mentioned, guys, to all the participants, the contact details of everyone who is presenting will be shared, whatever they are willing to share. If they are willing to share only their email, we will give their email. If they are willing to share their mobile number, we will share their mobile numbers. So do talk to each and every one of them. In addition to the questions you're going to type in today, you may have more. We will make sure that we connect you to all of them. Yeah. Thank you very much, Shashi, once again for starting off this session and keeping it so timely. That's very rare these days. Tushar, my pleasure. Tushar, in fact, his colleagues, Suhas Bakshi, was supposed to join. He had some other quick emergency. But Tushar, let me assure you, these two guys have been doing a great job last 3-4 years. And on Tushar slightly fewer years than Suhas. I think Suhas, I have known him for 6-7 years now. Tushar, probably 2 years now, isn't it? We met maybe 2 years back in Chennai when he had come down. You see, Biofuel Circle. I'm sure he's going to give a brief introduction about himself as well. But these days, I find people are very modest. They don't talk much about themselves. So let me take the opportunity to do the talking on their behalf. I think Biofuel Circle has done a tremendous job. Yeah, you see, we have been in this segment for some time, and biofuel supply chain is something that is very close to what we do at EAI. A lot of work has been done in that. And there are so many challenges. It is easy to say India produces 1 billion tons of agricultural residues. There are 250 million tons of agricultural residues that is being surplus. But you tell me, you show me, you collect 10 tons every day, show me every day. It's not easy, right? It's all available somewhere. It's all distributed. It's all over the place. It's in tens of thousands of villages. There are socio-economic challenges that to be overcome, logistics challenges to be overcome before you can get all these agricultural residues into an organized supply chain. And that is what Biofuel Circle has been trying to do. I would consider they are still in their initial stages because it is a very large, complex market. But what I have seen Tushar and Suhas do in the last couple of years is definitely giving me a lot of confidence that the supply chain for many different agricultural residues, which includes paddy straw, of course, is going to be far more streamlined in the near future than what it is today. So, which is why I thought, Tushar will be a great guy to share some things about how he feels the supply chain for paddy straw is in the context, especially in the overall context, because I'm sure a part of the portfolio is paddy straw, in a significant part of the portfolio is paddy straw. But beyond just the supply chain for paddy straw, what are his perspectives in the context of the use of paddy straw for the fast accelerating CBG sector? So Tushar, over to you, but I would only request you, do please say a few words about your background as well. We have 20 minutes because I think it's important that people get to know experts more than knowledge which you can get from the internet. I'm very keen that they get to know experts and their backgrounds a bit more. So be a bit immodest like me, share a few words about yourself, and then please do let us know what you think about this. Thank you, Tushar. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Narsi. Good morning, everyone. And I would like to begin by thanking Narsi and the EI team for the invitation here. Suhas, unfortunately, had to drop out at the last minute, so I'm filling in for him. EAI and Narsi have been, a long-standing base of support for us, and we have constantly received support, encouragement, and always very kind words, from them. So thank you so much. We also appreciate the kind of work that they're doing, bringing together people, spreading the idea. I think, in the truest sense, EAI is evangelizing this whole idea of, sustainable biofuels. So, compliments to the team also. And thank you so much, Narsi, once again. Very quickly about, Biofuel Circle. We started off about 4 years back as a marketplace. So when we looked at, the bioenergy space, we realized that if agri residue is to be brought in, and if agri residue is what is going to be the major source of bioenergy going forward, in this space needs to be organized, because it's a highly unorganized space, simply because the origin of this is from the farms, and the farm sector is completely unorganized in our country, with its own challenges in terms of the size of the farm, the mechanization available, the logistics available. So it's very, very, and no farmer wants to produce agri residue. The farmer is actually cultivating crop. The residue is left behind as a result of his producing the crop. So it is never going to be his focus. It is never going to be his key area of effort. But something needs to be done to organize this. And to that end, we thought digitization is going to be the key here. Also creating opportunities, because if you look at the farm sector, and why does a farmer burn the residue? I mean, that's the biggest challenge that we as a country in this space are also facing, because the farmer burns because, as I said, he doesn't have the means to clear the farm effectively. That's number one. Even if he somehow manages, he doesn't find access to where this can be sold. Even if he knows where it can be sold, he may not have the access to logistics, because the average land holding as per government records is about 2 acres. In our experience, it is a little more, maybe 4 to 5 acres. But there are clusters, Narsi, believe you me, where we are now finding average farm holding is under 1 acre also. So these farmers clearly don't have access to either the logistics or a market also. So we said, if that is what needs to be solved, then one has to come up with a digital marketplace. And that's where we started. We started off with the solid biofuel supply chain, and we have now close to about 200 odd buyers who buy biofuels in the form of briquettes and pellets on the platform. The next vertical that we then started addressing about 2 years back is the CBG supply chain, because at the end of the day, the start from the farm to at least the nearest center of collection and processing is identical. And this is what we set out to then address. A few things which we realized and which we attempt doing, as we go through the presentation. So Narsi, if somebody could just share the presentation also parallelly, is that, the key stakeholder here is the farmer. And unless the stakeholder becomes a participant and becomes an active participant, it's going to be difficult for anybody to solve this problem. And hence we said, fair point. We need to now juxtapose the two. We need to bring in a rural network here. We need to create an ecosystem where all the rural participants can participate, and we also then need to bring it in the same manner where the B2B e-commerce takes place. So with this, we said we should start. And what we then also attempt is the complete circularization of the value chain. And as we go forward, especially people in the CBG business, they would understand what I'm saying, because we're talking of supply chain as a one-way traffic, but it is actually not. It can be used as a two-way traffic or a two-way logistics system, simply because when you supply paddy straw and when CBG is produced, what is left behind, and a good 85% to 90% is left behind, which is the slurry, which can be converted to organic manure or biofertilizer, and it can go back to the farms. So this is where the circularization can happen, and this is what because the network can be common, the farmer is the same, and it's the same ecosystem that we're using. So with that, we said, let's create a simple model where the farmers can easily participate, the local participants can participate. It's a digitized approach, and it helps organize the entire thing. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. So this is so these are when I say the rural ecosystem, what exactly constitutes the ecosystem? So you need a mechanism to connect with the farmer. You need a mechanism to collect the waste. You need a mechanism to store this, because the availability of residue is for a limited period of time. The common perception is that residue is available to you for about 30 days to 45 days. In our experience, it is probably not available beyond 21 days. So you need to get in with full force for that 21 days and make sure that the mechanism works. Now, when this is collected, the consumption is linear around the year. And hence it needs to be stored somewhere. And for that, warehouses need to be created. Aggregation fleet, as I mentioned, is needed. You need local people, local partners to participate here. You cannot helicopter a team and say, okay, this team will do the job. You need, to train the local people to that extent. And you need to then make this whole thing operational. And the last point is payments, because, in this sector, what we have seen is generally the farmer does not receive the money for the waste. The clearance of the farm is usually offered as a free service to the farmer. But we make sure that we pay something to the farmer so that the farmer's interest is also kept alive, and he is compensated for the effort. Next slide, please. Yeah. So this is what we put together. So what we create is something which we call as a biomass bank. The start of the biomass bank is first understanding the local area, because while 230 million metric tons is available, we also need to understand where is the concentration, because if you are going to collect it for a shorter time, how do you maximize the impact and how do you give maximum coverage to the farmers? So generally, what we have seen is a warehouse which can store about 8 to 10,000 metric tons of waste, which can service, let's say, around 1,000 to 1,500 farmers based on the average acreage of land holding, and then bring in the equipment which is needed by this team for collection of the waste. It could be balers, it could be slashers, it could be rakers, it could be shredders in case of cotton or any other commodities that we're looking at, because it's not just paddy. There are other commodities also that some of the CBG plants use. So all of this put together constitutes to a biomass bank. You start with registering the farmers, and we do that over a WhatsApp chatbot. So it's very simplistic. The farmer uses the WhatsApp to register himself and also give indications in terms of what's the acreage, when would the harvesting happen. Accordingly, a schedule is prepared and shared with the team which is going to operate the equipment. We also conduct training programs for people. So all the local tractor operators, they would not have operated balers or rakers or slashers. So along with the equipment OEMs, we conduct training programs. So this serves two purposes. One, people, you enhance their skill. We also give them certification. So tomorrow, in case somebody else is wanting to use them, then these guys can actually show the certificate, so that I'm trained on using these equipment and I can perform. So two purposes are getting served. So we also carry out these training camps where we train the farmers free of cost. We don't charge them anything, so that they can then become participants. And then this whole thing is what works. And from here, then the supplies around the year to the CBG plant happen. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, so I mentioned about the aggregation fleet, that we create. So what we do is we look at the area. There are areas where people have their own fleet. There are some of the farmers who own maybe balers because government subsidies have come in. So people use these subsidies and buy these equipment. If that's the case, then we engage them along with their fleet. If not, then we bring in. So we as a company have invested in substantially invested into these equipment. So we today have about 150 odd balers and baling sets that we have. And these are of various capacities and sizes, right from small square balers to large round balers, which can bale up to 450 kgs of paddy straw bale, and rakers, slashers, shredders in case of cotton stock, modified trolleys. So for large balers, then we also have hydraulic self-loading trolleys, because it's difficult for labor to manually pick up let's say 400 kgs of a bale. So you need a mechanism where this can be then automatically loaded. So all of those things we have created, and this fleet is then put to use in the field. Next slide, please. So now, based on what's the opportunity and what's the size, typically what we have seen is you need a set of let's say about 8 to 10 sets of equipment for aggregation, because generally these the baling machines or the baling because you also need to operate during daytime, because during night time, especially in the northern parts of the country, you have dew formation. And when dew settles in, then you can't do the baling, because the equipment chokes because of the sticking of the paddy. So you need to operate between limited hours, and hence you need to consider certain capacity of these equipment. So we have normally in one biomass bank about 8 to 10 sets of these equipment, which means for every of this set a tractor is needed, which is hired locally. The driver is local for that, so they get paid for this. And then you need trolleys also. So all said and done, about 40 to 50 operators get assigned to one biomass bank. This creates local employment. This also adds to the economy. And these are the people who operate it themselves. So the tractor operator will come, take the machine from us, work with us, and he gets paid. So it is owner operated participation. What we also provide in the biomass bank is refueling mechanism, because in the rural areas the fuel pumps are not very close by, and we do not want these people to waste their time searching for fuel. So we have in fact we've tied up recently with a Pune based company called Repos, and they have an automated fuel dispensing system. This is not the one, this is an older one which we use. So now it's a completely mobile based connected one, which is connected with our platform also. So from the platform, I can determine how much fuel, because each equipment, by the way, is GPS enabled. So we can determine how much of fuel is needed, and the Repos datum dispenses that fuel. But I don't want to spend time. Point is, refueling is something which is necessary here. So this is the infrastructure which overall gets created in a biomass bank, and this is how then the operations begin. Next slide, please. This is a ballpark, investment that is needed. So warehouse has, there is a capital investment which is required in the warehouse. There is equipment. We need firefighting system there. We have, weigh bridges there. There are porta cabins, solar lighting, solar panels are there. So all of that put together, there is a certain cost that one has to, invest. And the aggregation depot has an additional investment, because there is working capital also required, and there is a team which which operates this. So the total investment of approximately 25 million Indian rupee, which is about a 2.5 crore kind of an investment for one cluster, is what is needed. So that's the kind of model that we work with. So the key points, the key takeaways for me, from this is, usually this mechanism will succeed if you have local participants, the farmers actively participating, and you have trained resources and the equipment that is available. So once you make these, happen, and a mechanism, because the period is short. So in that short time, somebody has to operate this entire chain and collect. The same mechanism can be then used in the reverse for for the sale of organic manure, which we are now starting. For the record, we now operating about 31 such biomass banks across the country. We have customers like Reliance Industries, Indian Oil Corporation, Adani Gas, Barbio, for whom we have set up such mechanisms in states like Punjab, Haryana, UP, Maharashtra, Gujarat, We're starting in Andhra Pradesh now. We will also be doing something in MP and Karnataka soon. So that's where we are with this. So let's see. I don't have anything else to say more beyond this. If there are any questions, more than happy to handle that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. That was really a very insightful presentation. Let's now transition to the Q&A session. I'm sure all of the participants must be having some excellent questions for our experts. I will now hand over the control to the moderator, Mr. Som Narayan of Carbon Masters. But before that, I would like Nersi to say a few words about Mr. Som.
Yeah, while Som comes up, we see lots of people on screen. I don't know if you're seeing what I'm saying. But firstly, it's such a delightful experience to be doing all these webinars. I can take a minute or two because Som we are actually running ahead of time. Isn't that a rarity in terms of conferences and webinars? We are running ahead of time. Let me take a minute. Such a pleasure. I mean, I've been in webinars, of course, but this is the first time we are organizing a day-long webinar. And we had rehearsed so many times. I must thank especially Tanuj and Tanuj. You could, of course, see him now and then. And also Anu. These are the two youngsters just out of college who put this together. We ran through multiple rehearsals, and even after all those, we were wondering, oh my God, is this going to work out? How many problems could be there? So far, so good. So thanks to those youngsters, and thanks to also all you people. One thing I want to let you know is sometimes there is a lag in the slide that is being put up. And I think Tushar also mentioned it. He said a couple of times, can we have it? The same thing happened when I was presenting. The reason is sometimes there is a lag in the bandwidth. So I would request all those who are going to present later, as well as anybody else who raises any question in some form, most times, the lag is probably because there is a network issue and not because of our issue. Because we have two people dedicated only to make sure slides are put up on time. Just letting you know, because I know as a presenter, it's very annoying to me. I ask next slide and the next slide doesn't come up at all.
No, not at all annoying, Nersi, not at all.
No. I mean, I also had the same problem yesterday and today, because you may not know that there is a lag. I'm just letting you guys know.
Yeah,
it's all technology at work. We're all learning. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tushar. I think it was, as usual, a very good presentation. My takeaway from that, of course, the floor belongs to Som. You may have a lot of questions. My takeaway has been that you guys have put together not just the collection mechanism, a proper logistics mechanism, the proper storage mechanism. I really was very happy when you were talking about use of digital WhatsApp to make sure that the coordination with the farmers is also very good. Also very good. And when we are talking about very good things, it is such a pleasure to introduce a very good friend of mine, Som Narayan. Som has been known to me, I think 5-6 years now. I keep bumping into all these guys because I attend so many events, and I met Som, I think maybe 5-6 years back in Chennai for some reason. Kept in touch. Right from that time, I was very impressed. A youngster getting into a challenging sector like waste management, which is what he has been doing with his carbon masters and his carbon lights thing. I think it's very impressive. And he has stuck to it. You see, I've seen so many youngsters get into this game only to leave after a couple of years because they had very high expectations and they did not expect so much of hard work to be put in. Yeah. Waste to value, waste to gold, all those are very nice to talk. But when you get in, you realize this is a very, very challenging segment. And for youngsters today, like Som, he was educated in the UK. I remember that. Opportunities are aplenty, right? I mean, they're all having such fantastic backgrounds. He could have done many other things. I'm glad he stuck to it. They have been at it for quite some time. He and his partner, Kevin Houston, both of them are doing a terrific job. And I think what is also interesting for me is that they have been trying to brand it. You see, it's very critical. Carbon Lights is their brand. I'm sure he has a bit more to say when he's talking. I think it's all very impressive. I know some of the challenges we went through. And more importantly, I was there in a Delhi conference. I think it was about a couple of months back when I saw him again on the stage. Very impressive moderation. I think he was moderating some of the topmost guys in the Indian CBG sector. And I think the composure and the kind of questions he had, I was very impressive. So I called up Som and said, "Look, Som, you have to be in this webinar." And he said, "Narsi, look, we haven't done anything from Napier grass and paddy straw yet. We are more sticking to the traditional feedstock." But I told him, "Look, it doesn't matter if you're not doing anything. I want you to be in my program in some form. The best way is be a moderator. Huh? If you don't have answers right now, surely you have some very good questions." So over to you. Please do tell a bit about yourself as well before you start off. Don't be modest at all, my friend. You have done a great job. Go ahead, Som.
Merci, thank you so much. And see, the bandwidth issue is a signal for you that you should make it this in person next year or very soon. So 110 people is not a small turnout. So we're all looking forward for an in-person event. Anyway, so thanks very much again for involving me and Carbon Masters. So I get to choose the questions, but before quickly, as you said, for the audience as well, we've been focusing on solving the waste going to landfill because that emits methane. And for us, Carbon Masters was set up in order to cut emissions, and therefore for us it was very central that any work we do, it had to be around reducing emissions, and methane being captured instead of going to landfill and emitting from landfills was a huge opportunity, but it has its challenges. I mean, today I would be the first one to say that MSW is the most available daily feedstock, but the most challenging feedstock to work with. Across the country, every 10-15 kilometers, the power shifts, and it's just not easy because there's the local authorities, there's politicians, there's it's and nobody wants it in their backyard. So whereas the beauty is both paddy, straw, and any other agri waste is socially accepted. At least the farmers are producing it. Although I'm seeing some disturbing news in Punjab about all the plants having its challenges to operate them. These are all at least it's one step forward in terms of versus MSW. And but the key the key question remains on how do you make it viable, and what should be the supply chain availability, how do you solve those challenges for pre-treatment and making sure that the projects are viable. Thanks for this opportunity to interact with two experts. I've known both Tushar's organization and Shashi very closely. So the good thing is there's so many questions. I get to choose. That's the only best part. So let me choose some really interesting ones. More than 25-30 questions already in. So let me start off with the first one. This is for Tushar. I'm trying to club many questions so that the essence of many of the common questions will come together as a single question. What's the cost of? So you've mentioned about 2.5 crores to set up a cluster. The audience, generally the questions are around what's the cost of how much tonnage do you produce in terms of like how much can you collect from one cluster, and what would be roughly the price that can make it be available for the CBG plant now versus what Shashi has put out figure of 500 rupees odd, and that's again we need to get into details with Shashi. Versus that, what does on the agri waste and mainly on the paddy straw look like, Tushar?
So the paddy straw economics is slightly different than this because the other feedstocks that you mentioned, here the supply is available round the year, and hence it can be harvested or it can be collected and supplied directly to the plant. Agri residue won't work that way because you need to collect this agri residue, store it, and then supply. You also need to have another big challenge that we are also trying to solve is the utilization of the asset, because let's say for example from a cluster I am collecting 10,000 metric tons of paddy straw. I have 21 days to collect it, so I will probably need 12 to 14 sets of equipment. One set will cost anywhere between, if I may add all trolleys and everything and no tractors, we're still talking of one set costing between 30 and 40 lakh rupees. So if you're
Right.
talking, let's say 10 or 12
So is
cents.
that 2.5 crores included in that cost, like the cluster cost?
Yeah, that's a part of
Okay.
it.
Right.
So, so we've that 2.5 is considering about 8,000 tons.
Right.
So I'm saying, ballpark, if you do 10,000 tons, that's a kind of investment that is needed. Now you invest this, and then this lies idle for the rest of the year, because then you don't have any use of this. This cannot be used anywhere else.
Right.
So, the challenge then is also to find contiguous and continuous utilization of these assets if you want to really get a return on these assets. But the point is, all of this goes in, so you have to charge a part of this equipment to the project. The second is warehousing, because there is warehousing infrastructure which you need to create. You need to have a permanent team there. You need to have fixtures like weigh bridges, etc. And you need to also have a mechanism for supplies. So,
Absolutely.
with all of this, plus the number of equipment that is used here. So, as I said, there is a slasher, there is a raker, there is a tedder in some cases, then there is a baler, and then there are trolleys, and then there are trolleys for delivery to the plant also. So, all of these need tractors, all of these will need diesel for operations. Typically we try and set up the biomass banks around 30-35 kilometers from the plant, so that there is a decent catchment of agri residue also. Then the investment cost and the interest on top of it. Typically the landed price of 1 ton of CBG, 1 ton of
Paddy
agri
straw?
residue, agri
Yeah.
residue, be it paddy straw, cotton,
Yeah.
it changes marginally.
Yeah.
Would be somewhere around 3,200 to 3,500 rupees a metric ton.
Right. Right. Great. And Shashi, that brings me on to the question for you. So again, for the one of the questions was yield from CBG. Would you agree with about 8 to 10% as a yield potential from paddy straw, or 10% potential from paddy straw for CBG?
Is that question for me?
Yeah, Tushar, yeah, for you. Yeah, just closing it out. I'm just trying to
So what we have seen is about 10 to 12% yield.
Right.
The paddy straw needs to be delivered at around 15% moisture.
Okay.
The moisture is more than then the costing also goes up. But typically at 15% moisture, the yield what we are seeing, because we are working with various plants,
Yeah.
the yield is between 10 and 12% easily.
Right. Okay. So Shashi, moving on to you, I'll just pick a lot of questions for you. One of them was, so there was generally about questions around, if you're told about 6,700 is the per month earnings for a farmer, which is somebody is pointing out that it's 80,000. So why would they give it at 20,000? Generally, I think most of the questions are around what is the realistic price for Napier if you were to do it on a contract farming basis. One model. The second model, which you have mentioned, is accumulate all the land, put your own people, implement farming, and then the cost comes up to about 500 rupees. Is that, is there any more light on that, Shashi, in terms of like what should be the realistic price considered for contract farming, including their margin for profit, etc.?
Sir, the sheet what was shown,
Yeah.
that is basically what actually it is supposed to cost.
Right.
So if we see, there are two scenarios. In Andhra Pradesh, in outskirt of even Bangalore, probably some 80 kilometer away, and there are multiple places where 20,000 rupees land is available.
Right.
On lease basis. Whereas in Jalandhar area, we had to spend 60,000 rupees per year. It depends on the locally what they are growing and what they are earning.
Yeah, and in fact, Andhra government
and somewhere near Patna,
isn't it the Andhra government has now put out a policy where they'll give it to you for 33 years for somewhat similar pricing that you are mentioning, between 20 and 30,000 rupees.
Correct. So that is the market price. Yeah.
See,
if you look at the what you call demography,
Yeah.
Probably most of us were belonging to farmer family, at least I am. And my father is probably now 65 plus. So that is the reality in all of the villages, all most of the households. So they left lot of their land empty, or they want to go for some easier crop. In Napier, what happens when we harvest? There are two ways people do. One is they harvest every 45 days. Other way, every 80 days. So when we harvest every 80, 90 days, which is 3 months, so every 3 months there is a cash flow. That is very lucrative for them with least effort. Only watering is required. So realistic number is all our practical projects wherever we are growing, around 730 is the average price which got finalized. So here it cannot be directly compared with paddy. See, paddy is 85% dry material and 15% water. Whereas in Napier, it is 25% dry matter and 75% is water. So it's not one to one directly comparable. And yield also will vary. From Napier, you will never get 100 or 120 kg. So at max, it may come 63 to 65 kg. That is the range.
Sorry, what is the range that you said mentioned per
63
ton
to 65 when you do a hydrolysis well. If you do it traditionally, if you just grind and put it, you will get 3.5% yield.
Right, right.
So we have to destroy the cellulose and hemicellulose to raise the sugar content or glucose content. Then only it becomes viable. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult. At 3.5%, it is not very lucrative thing.
Right. And actually, one of the other questions that has been raised, and even I had this particular question, is that, right now, if you were to, from both your perspectives, what is that one policy framework that we should get around the feedstock? Or do you think it's already there? We don't need any more policy framework? Or would you say that, it can be things around how do you ensure that farmers are incentivized? Secondly, how do you ensure that the soil health is taken care of from these projects? Because most of these CBG projects are going to be in the range of 10, 20, 30 kilometers from the feedstock in the agri residue space. In fact, I think 30 is too much. I think 10 to 20 is what I'm hearing. And therefore, how do you create policy framework that such that, Tushar mentioned a very important point in his presentation about the circularity. How do you make sure that instead of the final product becoming briquettes or anything, how do you make sure that, is there any policy framework that we could really push for to make sure that the circularity is taken care of? And what kind of incentives that, will make sure that the feedstock is available for CBG?
Sir, what I see is since 2019, there are several policy improvements. I would say I keep collecting those improvements. It is more than 25 improvements. What we see from the government is whatever suggestion, a valid and good solid suggestion, when we took it to any ministry, they accommodated, be it on fertilizer side or on the MOPNG side or whoever it is. So that is being done. Only thing what is missing, it's on the fertilizer side, is see we are failing on the branding of the CBG based single and fertilizer all across India, which is originating from the CBG. Even though there is a 1500 rupees MD A thing, which is market development assistance which they are giving, we do not see any which is happening. So that part probably you have to speed up. But it all depends on farmers have to start using. Then that is where the demand is. We cannot push it. And the chemical fertilizer companies have their salesmen in every village. Probably every week, every 15 days, they visit every villager because they have so many boys on the ground, which cannot be done by the CBG producer. So we have to thing one is our fertilizer is carbon rich. All across India, in most of the places, the carbon there is a deficiency, organic carbon across the soil, and carbon light is you are the more better person to answer that. So we can replace the missing carbon in the soil through CBG fertilizer alone. We do not have many options. Either it has to be biochar or the CBG fertilizer. And in that CBG fertilizer is much better thing. Then the second is all across India, we should try to have a single brand. We can have ABCD prefix. If it is coming from MSW, probably Bharat Fertilizer A. If it is coming from Napier B. If it is coming from Paddy C. Something like that. But we should have a same name. Then the educating the farmers. See, we have 50 crore plus farmers. It is very what you call costly effort to educate these farmers by any of the private companies. That is where only the policy can come.
Tushar, any comments?
I think, Shashi, these are very, very, insightful comments, and really interesting that you, bring this up. Completely agree with this because FOM, actually for any CBG plant, the viability of the CBG plant will finally depend on the total economics, and FOM is a part of that. So I think while there are policies which exist, but more work needs to be done. The distribution of FOM right now is, one has to still get a license and do all of that, which is fine. But the acceptance part is something where effort really is needed. And the MDA, what Shashi mentions, while it exists, but it's a very difficult way to get. I mean, to get that MDA, you need to have a certain mechanism in place, which is a little, I mean, it exists on the paper, but difficult to avail of. But that's fine. I mean, when the market economics set in, these things can be taken care of. I think in terms of the other part, that is the feedstock aggregation part, while there are policies which exist for subsidy, the subsidies are available either to the farmer directly, or either to the CBG plant wanting to invest in the equipment, or FPOs. Now, we also believe that the FPO as a community is something which probably is the sweet spot in the agriculture landscape, the rural landscape. What we realize is that these FPOs are not really equipped to become true entrepreneurs, because there is an entrepreneurial risk which is to be taken, and they need to have a business model which they can implement. And generally FPOs work because of one or two very energetic people, but as an organization they're not very well organized. So this subsidy then has to be opened up to other entities who may want to work at this. Say for example, entities like us, we do not get the subsidy. If that happens, then I believe more people can come, because ultimately then it limits how much one can also invest. But if subsidies are available, then more people will come and participate in this. I think that will speed up the aggregation. The other thing could be probably some closer to your heart, in terms of a mechanism to bringing in the carbon credits in play here, because currently the carbon credit mechanism is at at the user level wherever the substitution happens, but not at the originator level. So if there is a mechanism which can bring in the carbon credit into play, and the farmer benefits because of this monetarily or otherwise, I think that will become a significant game changer or a needle mover in this. Because when I mentioned these prices to you, as I said, most farmers do not get anything. We pay something, but that's still about maybe 200 rupees per ton is what we are able to pay the farmer. If we want to pay more, the cost of the feedstock goes up. But if the carbon credit mechanism would come in, and the farmer, or not as an individual, even as a community, if they benefit, I think that will make a significant change to the feedstock which is available. There is awareness in certain governments, but if we look at across the state, it's not a uniform push to try and discourage farmers from burning the residue. So we are seeing that there are certain local administrations which are very active, and they are actually very, very willing to work with us. They come with us. We do gram sabhas along with the local block development officers, or even at times the SDM of that tehsil. But then there are certain areas where they are least interested because it is not on their radar. So that uniformity, and in some states, this awareness doesn't even exist. Certain states do not have so far. Maybe it's not an acute problem, or maybe it is not highlighted that much. It's not a major issue for them. So these are some of the interventions. I think if they come in, this will make sure that the awareness about the opportunity in this space will be increased, and that will help the cause.
Right. Now, say, I don't know if we are short of time. There's one lot of push on asking this thing about what is the unit economics.
Yep,
Uh, cons-
let's go ahead with one more question, Som. Is that okay?
Yeah. So for the audience's thing was like, what's the cost of CBG, production cost using Napier, and what's the cost of production cost of CBG using paddy straw? Any insights that you would like to share? Like, one is that, if the feedstock is costing 3,500, where 35 rupees is going into the feedstock, therefore we have to, as you rightly pointed out, we can't make all the viability come from only from CBG. It has to come back from organic manure, and only 10% is going out as gas, maybe another 10% in all the other CO2 and other traces. Then there's still a big chunk of it that needs to be connected back into the farming. Any insights, Tushar, Shashi, on the pricing aspect, on what is it right now, and what should be the CBG price in order for this to become attractive, on a fair basis?
Sir, I would uh, take the first. What is the cost of this? See, cost depends on the efficiency of the process. As I told you, within Napier, there is traditional process and there is a enzymatic treated or assisted process. It can be enzyme, it can be ultrasonic, it can be or hot steam, or it can be something else. So it depends completely on how much efficiency you are going to get. So that is the game. Because raw material is a major part of the whole CBG thing. In our case, we see around 32 to 33 rupees as the theoretical OPEX. When I take this,
Is that excluding the feedstock? Shashi, is that excluding the feedstock?
It is including the feedstock.
Okay.
But excluding the overheads, interest, those things. What I am calculating is raw material, electricity, manpower, maintenance, transportation, and consumables. So that is the number, but people in reality will achieve like 36, 37. Last time for some other purpose we were doing that exercise. This comes to around 38, 39 rupees range. The cost of production alone I am talking. Then coming to the sales part, see, first of all, the CBG plant, all this economics is like in Napier, we take 90% efficiency, like 330 days it works. But there are a lot of seasonal stops. So there will be some stopgap arrangement, there will be ramp up, ramp down kind of period. So that is where the efficiency comes. So looking all that, if you look at any of the high volume kind of material which is getting sold, including petroleum, or it can be a FMCG, typically the margin in the chain is 6% for the wholesaler, some 3-4% for the retailer, and the remaining goes to the manufacturer. If you look at the CBG supply chain, what is happening? The CNG price, some 1.5-3 rupees or something, the commission the retailer is getting, and there is nobody called wholesaler here. So it is directly the oil marketing company. Then there is a producer. I see very unreasonable kind of margin is being kept by the OMC in between, which is about say 20 rupees per kg of CBG, which is very unfair in any, like, no, even in the normal way. CBG people are getting around 65, 63 to 67 rupees on average across India, 63 to 67. Whereas the retail price is about 88, 89 rupees is the average. So that is where
Just one part. What about the time?
we need to producers who have taken initial risk should get encouraged with better margin or reasonable margin. Everybody should make the money. The sustainable energy means the companies have to be sustainable too. So that is the way I look at it.
Tushar, any comments? Final comments?
No, I think I agree with Shashi. He's laid out most of the economics. I do not have specific individual unit economics, but see, the CBG plants which are set up under the Satat scheme, there is a support price. There is a short buyback price of around 45 to 48. I think recently it was to be revised. I'm not aware.
It has been revised now. It's very good pricing in terms of gas. So we only need to fix the organic manure part of it.
Yeah.
It's almost 1380 now per MMBTU. It's been revised this month again.
Correct.
So yeah. Please go on. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the key challenge there is the cost of logistics, because the cascades, they need to travel a certain distance, and to my mind, every CBG plant has its own individual efficiency depending on where they are located, because some of the plants are situated closer to where the base is, and they might not have that much of offtake from there. But unless you combine, the FOM economics into this, I don't think what I am seeing right now is, CBG plants are going to make a lot of money. But as I said, Shashi has laid out the unit economics, so they are more or less in that lie.
One more question was last, and I'm going to stop after that. Hand over to Narsi. Can CBG plant be blended with Napier and Paddy?
Yes, of course.
Right. Okay. That's it. I mean, I think I covered most, but I think some of them I have to email them directly.
Thank you, sir. That was a really wonderful Q&A session.